Alright. Hello, I'm only a little bit late today. Oh, crunch. That's not a sound I like to hear when I lift my arm up. My neck starts crunching. So that's not a good sign. Very bad sign. Alright. So, when we last left off, we were working on our waves here. So there's the back one. And this was our second one. We still need to do a little bit on that one. Hope everybody's doing good today. Hope your weekend was well. Mine was okay. A little bit of a blur. Kinda half fighting a headache at the moment, so we'll see how things go today. We will see. Alright, I've kind of got my light pointed in a slightly different direction. See if that helps make things not quite so bright this time. Don't know for sure if it's gonna do a whole lot, but we'll see. So, I mean, we're slowly getting there. This one's been a little tough at times. 100%. But it's okay, we've been learning as we've been going. And that's like the big thing, right? To be figuring it out as you go. Let's grab our lighter blue, our almost white blue. Okay. So we're just gonna kind of dabble this in here and there. Just a little bit. Let's see where we can, excuse me, and see where we can get a little bit of some highlighty things going. Gonna be a little tough to see it at first because we don't want to run too hard, too fast into it. Just kind of want little tiny kisses of color here. Alright. And not all the waves are going to look the same. Because, you know, nature and all does its own thing. And I'm okay with this one not being that highlighted. Alright, maybe just a little bit thicker in this spot. Not too much. Don't want to go too crazy. Alright, so let's see here. Got a little bit of darkness peeking in from behind. Don't know if I really need to add too much more dark on that one. I think I'm okay with that. Alright, but now for this guy. Okay, so this is really gonna be top of our weave here on this bottom one. if we can kind of sort of get the angle right. Might take a little bit of fussing. Alright, so this guy's a little bit more involved. Just a little bit. We'll definitely have to come back around with more fluff here because we've got it really, really thin. But just trying to get a base idea of the shape of this guy. Is really all I'm doing at the moment. So let's see. This is gonna come over to here.
Kisses.
Hi.
Ah.
You okay?
Yep.
And gonna have to start dropping that down a little bit. Not sure. Well, meh. Probably to about here. Hey, Mrs. Rock Guru. How are you? I hope things are well. Yeah, definitely want to be picking that up every so often while we get this situated. So we're doing quite a lot of stabbing here. That's good. Very nice. Alright, so just trying to get this top edge is what I'm most concerned about. Oh, this one's gonna be a lot more solid. That's okay. We just have to go back and add in some more solidness to the rest of it. That's all. That won't be too much trouble. Sometimes it just takes a few layers of fluffy stuff. I gotta be careful how far down I come. We don't want to lose our remaining ground we've got down here. So I think we need to bring this over. Hey, husband. Husband, can you pop in chat for a second and do something for me?
What's up?
Can you do exclamation point, lowercase p-a-i,
Sorry, what was that? Lowercase
p-a-i-n-t, enter. P-A-I. There we go. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you'd include that.
So there is the link to the tutorial in full. Sorry, it's really hard for me to type with these stupid finger thingies on. That's going to be to the Bob Ross YouTube channel. That is where we found the tutorial, and I have a section of orange that just kind of poked through, much to my dismay. So let's just go ahead and fix that up. Like, the painted version of this is so much better, but, you know, new challenges when you're trying to do stuff with different mediums. Yeah, I just want to cover in that gap right now while I'm looking at it so I don't forget and so it stops bothering me. Alright. So, not a big deal. We still have plenty of this color, and we'll just kind of tap that in. Get that good and covered up. Alright. Now, go back to our let's put the dark color away. Number one, so we don't get it mixed in. I'm not sure how happy I am with these waves, but you know what? It's the first time I've tried doing this one. I haven't painted this one, and I've never really painted a night scene either, so with paint or anything. So, you know, learning curve for sure, but definitely the first time I've ever tried to do a scene like this in fluff, shall we say, whatever your fluff of choice is. Most people use roving, R-O-V-I-N-G, needle felting wool specifically for this. It's just like wool before it's been twisted into yarn. I'm using acrylic yarn for this because budget and colors, so I was not finding all of the colors I was going to need to do this in the shades that I needed them in, because, you know, we can try to blend colors together, but you're still gonna see like the streaks of the colors, right? It'll kind of look like a variegated yarn. It doesn't blend like paint where it creates a new color. So you'll still see both of those colors. And roving can be a little expensive. Be prepared if you want to use roving for the amount that you get per color. unless somebody has a good supplier, can be a little pricey. So I went with acrylic yarn. You can use it to do this. I mean, we've completed one of the tutorials using the acrylic yarn already. So we've proven that it can be done. And you can use this to, I mean, traditionally people do the needle felting for making like the little figurines and stuff. That you're probably going to want the roving for, at least for your core. Because I've read that it's hard to get the acrylic yarn to stick to itself to do the figurines. So maybe have like a lot of a roving color, like a neutral color, and then oh, you're getting all sorts of dirty here, Marvin. Marvin's picking up the desk crumbs. He's been eating, I guess. Hold on. Let me clean Marvin up. Marvin's a little fuzzy. I probably could have stabbed Martin a little bit more to make him less fuzzy. But the lighter colors, the acrylic yarn, it was too light for me. I wanted a darker color, so I went with the darker color roving that I had left in that color. So, but Marvin's got a roving core to him. But, oof, okay. So let's see. This is where things get a little tricky. I think we're down a little too far. We're gonna have to squeeze a lot in here at the bottom. And so the full tutorial that Bob does, he's doing oil paint, as Bob does. And we've followed some of his tutorials doing oil paint in the past. But I've never seen anybody attempt to follow his tutorials with felting. So I was like, hey, you know what would be fun? Let's just give it a try. And we'll see how it goes. Now, it certainly doesn't look exactly like his. It's not going to. But we definitely created a unique piece of art, shall we say? For sure. In the first one that we completed, so that was this one. That was the first episode in the tutorial that we did there. So there is the archive of this one up on my YouTube channel. Each episode is archived over there, and I also took all of the live streams that it took to put that one together and put them all into one giant speed felt video that ended up being like 5 hours long at, oh gosh, what speed did I put that at? I don't remember. 600 or 700 speed maybe? I don't remember. 800 speed? It was fast enough where you could still look at it. I remember that much. Okay. Oh, Bob, can we? Alright, hold on. I need a better... Oh. Okay. Really? Alright, so we're gonna take this out a little bit further than I had planned. Sorry. Brain didn't, when the camera zoomed in on him painting, as you guys are privy to the conversation that goes on in my head as I'm like, oh fuck. So, when the camera zoomed in on him working on an area, and I'm trying to plan for how far out something is going across, it sometimes is a little deceiving when it's zoomed in that far, because then I don't think it goes all the way to where it really does, and then they'll do a wide angle shot that I'll catch and I'm like, oh damn it. So yeah, that just totally happened. Alright, it's fine. I just didn't realize. Not a big deal. We can still do that. So usually that MooBot message about that pops up the link there, it's set to go off every so often, but if nobody's really chatting, it's not gonna. So I also have it set to where the mods can pop that up. But my mods' lives have changed, so they're not always available to mod, and that's fine. You know, shit happens, but sometimes they make it in. Kind of rained unexpectedly this morning. I fell asleep and then I woke up. And then I fell back asleep, and then I woke up again, and I'm like, man, it's really dark in here. I actually panicked a little bit, because I was like, oh god, what time is it? Don't tell me I slept till like 5 o'clock. And had like no idea. And I was like, oh no. But checked what time it was, and it was like 10 a.m. And I'm like, okay, but why is it so dark? And opened up one of the news apps that I have on my Kindle. I was looking at the radar and I'm like, that's interesting. And a little bit later, I think I heard cars going by on a wet road, so I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Now they're calling for storms every day this week, and I'm just like, why? Why? Every day. I'm just like, really? Really? And it's just a percentage, like, it's like, oh, 45%, 50%, 50%, 50%, and I'm like, ugh, this makes it hard for me to plan the live streams, because, I mean, we're not going to be outside, but when we're doing our WoW Challenges streams, I don't normally like doing them when it storms, because I don't want to risk the internet dropping or the power going out and the loss of a character, right? So it makes things a little more difficult to plan what day we're going to do that. And it also makes things a little more difficult. I'm just kind of lightly, I'm not putting the needle in, I'm just scraping the surface ever so lightly just to separate that out. It also makes it hard for me to work on those characters if it's storming, so, because I do hours upon hours of work on them before we ever get to the Wednesday live stream to try to ding them up. So we joke around that I'm always busy, but I'm always busy doing something. But we only have the 4 classes remaining. I have 3 of them ready. I wrapped up getting the Demon Hunter, or the Demon Hunter ready last night. I still need to work on the Druid. And the druid's gonna be a pain. Because I am able to kill the level 60 mobs on the druid, however... it's still taking a while. Like, one rotation of that particular loop took quite a while. And there's only 10 mobs in there. It didn't even get me a full bar of XP, so I was like, alright. Now, a lot of this down here on the end is probably going to end up getting obscured. If I'm remembering correctly how this goes towards the end. Like I said, I'm a little bit lower than I probably should be. But that's kind of okay, because I don't know how we're going to make this reflection stuff work. We weren't able to really get the reflections in on the other one, because it was going to look a frightful hot mess. So, lots of uncertainty with this one at the moment. And you know what? They're not all winners. They're just not. Some scenes may work better for this than others. But that's okay, because we're learning. And we're trying not to be intimidated by our art supplies. And learning that it's okay if something doesn't go right. See, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for things to not work out the way you had envisioned. Draw from that, and you know, as long as you're taking something away of, okay, so this didn't work doing it this way. Let's say, you know, I'll approach it from a different way next time. As long as you're taking something away with you, it's not a loss. And a lot of us, myself included, need to remember that. Quite a bit. Because we are all our own worst critics, right? I know I am. Okay. Oh, nah. There's a tiny little thin fuzzy trail. Tail, I guess, coming off of this one. I think we're kind of in camera. All right. I'm just gonna pull off that little wispy tail there. It's just being a little bit unruly to deal with at this point. So just kind of getting in the legs of our wave here, I guess. Oh, oh my goodness! Mingos! So many mingos! What is happening? Oh, thank you for the raid. I appreciate that. Welcome, welcome. Hope your day was going well. Hope your stream went well. And welcome in. I am Nisey. And we do a variety of things here. We do everything from playing games to arty type things, depending on the day. And today we are doing arty type things. You are new to the Stream Dream team, and saw you were live, and thought the art was amazing. Oh, I thank you. Appreciate that. Some days we do better things than others, but yeah, we're working on needle felting, painting with our wool here, doing a scene instead of like a little figurine today. And we are attempting to follow along with a Bob Ross tutorial. We've followed Bob's tutorials before, with actual proper oil paints like you're supposed to. And I just thought, you know, it'd be fun if we try to follow a few of his tutorials with needle felting, because I hadn't seen anybody attempt to do that before, so I figured, why not? Why not? I do appreciate the raid, and thank you for popping in. Your Blood Elf non-challenge paladin is about to hit level 55. Congrats, Mrs. Rock Guru. So I'm also part of the WoW Challenges community for World of Warcraft. It's a little subsection of community players where we play the game in a non-standard way. Kind of like if you've ever heard of the Iron Man Challenge. It's part of that community that I'm with, one of the mods for that community as well. And we stream that right now on Wednesdays. Ooh, don't break, Mr. Needle. You behave. Yes, so we do that on Wednesdays. My current goal is I play a lot of the Bloodthirsty Challenge, which is where you're grinding to max level. You're not really doing quests per se. There's a couple of instances where you're allowed to quest. And it's very specific though. And it is tracked what quest you're doing. So if you do a quest that's not on the list that's allowed to be done, you do get in trouble if you do too many of them and you get knocked out of the running. Not really a competition, but you get knocked off the tracking list and whatnot. So my mission for that challenge is to get one of every class to max level as a Bloodthirsty Challenger. It's not PvP involved. I know there's a Bloodthirsty title that's PvP related in-game, but this isn't PvP related. You're just grinding to max level. The most that you're really allowed to quest is like the transition into Bastion. That's about it, really, and a couple of other expact transitions. There's a whole list of quests that are allowed, and for what class races are allowed to do if you're locked into your starting zone, and all on their website. As my voice is going away. Sorry about that. Allergies make voice very raspy sometimes. It is a thing here. So yeah, we do that on Wednesdays, and I've got 4 classes remaining to grind to max level. And all 4 of them are my worst classes, of course. So, of course, that's how that is gonna go. But we'll see. Like, so I was starting to say, I don't know if we're gonna be able to do our WoW stream on Wednesday. This week's gonna be very up in the air with when our WoW stream is gonna happen. I know the schedule says one thing. The weather will determine on what we're actually doing, because if it's storming, we're not going to be able to do the challenge characters for the Bloodthirsty challenge that I want to do. We could move Parkitect to Wednesday this week if we have to. We could stick in an extra art stream somewhere or an extra Planet Zoo stream. I mean, we have options. We'll still do something. I just don't know what. Oh, you know what? Oh. Hang on. I don't know if we're streaming this week. Hold up. Oh, Wednesday's our anniversary. I don't know. We might still do something on stream. We don't have any money to do anything, which is why I'm saying we might still stream. If we had money to, like, go to dinner or get dinner and chill for the evening, then I'd probably cancel. But, nah, we'll probably do something. Keep an eye on Twitter. Oh, thank you for the follow. Keep an eye on Twitter with what's going to happen on Wednesday, because Wednesday is our wedding anniversary. Hard to believe that we'll have been married 15 years. Certainly doesn't feel like it's been that long. Maybe for 20 we can get back to where we got married. We'll see. A lot has to happen for that to happen, but... yeah, so right now on Wednesday we're doing WoW. Thursday we're doing Parkitect, which is an amusement park building sim, kind of similar to Roller Coaster Tycoon, sort of. Maybe an in-between step between Roller Coaster Tycoon and Planet Coaster. I would say it's somewhere in between those two. I do prefer the building interface on Planet Coaster better. But right now we're just trying to get through the tutorials in Parkitect. Or not tutorials, campaigns, excuse me. Use the right word. We're trying to get through the campaign modes. And I think we have 2 remaining. So we'll see how that goes. And then when we finish up those campaigns, we'll probably take a break from Parkitect for a while. And we might throw in an extra art stream or an extra Planet Zoo stream. Or we could head back into Minecraft. We need to head back into Minecraft, actually. I need to do demo in Minecraft. I haven't had time to do that demo. It's still... I just haven't had the time. Trust me, I've been wanting to get back into there and get some more demo work done so we can keep going. I haven't been in there since the last Minecraft stream. No, that's not true. I went in there to do a little bit of demo one day, and then time kind of... something happened and I had to bail out. I don't remember what. Just remember something happening. But Planet Zoo seems to be our most popular one. You have to go now. Time to make dinner. Oh yes, no problem. I know about dinner. And thank you for popping in. Thank you for the follow and the raid. And you have a lovely day. And I'll see you around. Appreciate all the things and stuff. All right, all of this tapped into here. As we work on getting this stuff done. Sorry, sometimes I'm a little slow to look up if I'm using sharp objects, especially. So I think after we get this one done, we're going to take a break from needle felting just for a little bit, not forever. And we'll be working on painting a little bit. I mean, we could do that. We could do painting one day, and then we could add in a painting day to the stream week as things let go, please, thank you, as we wrap up our Architect and our World of Warcraft stuff. I've got a area right here that's kind of opened up on us. So I'm using a small gauge needle. I don't know anything aside from that except for the fact that it was classified as small in the toolkit. And we're just using acrylic yarn that we have fluffed. And to fluff it, you just cut some lengths that are, you know, as close to the same length as you can get. Which I know that can be difficult sometimes to make happen. And then you get a pet grooming brush called a sticker brush. It's kind of used on dogs that have thick undercoats that you need to get all that out of from underneath, and it's got a bunch of little like bent arms on it. It's kind of a hard brush to describe, and kind of spiky. Usually metal. There are some plastic versions, but usually metal. I would suggest to get the metal one for this. I picked up this little trash can from Dollar Tree that I keep my fuzzes that we're not using or that got too color contaminated that fell off. This little trash canny guy. He's got all kinds of fuzz and stuff stuck to him. an animal fur apparently, because it just flies through the air in here. Doesn't seem to matter how much I vacuum. I could dust this place from top to bottom today. Right now. Vacuum, wipe everything down, and tomorrow it will be covered in the same amount of dust. It's ridiculous. Even on our front porch when we were power washing the porch, within 2 days it was covered in a film of dust again. Probably from all of the traffic. Because of this terribly busy street that we live on. Okay, so I just grabbed some more black that I'm just kind of tapping in here. I had a section split open where our base felt was poking through. And since our base color is orange, it was kind of noticeable when you're right on top of it. So I just want to fill that in here before we go too far. So I'm just trying to make sure that we are all anchored in here. Alright. Now we haven't smoothed out the back in a while, and you don't have to do this. This is just something that I do. Usually with a pencil sharpener, or my dental floss case, or, you know, something smooth that I just kind of re-stretch out the back with, because sometimes we get a little bunched up from, you know, all the fiber being smushed together as we're stabbing through it. So my chair is creaking with every movement. Thank you, chair. Just so we don't get too, like, peak and valley kind of thing happening. Alright, so I've been working in pretty small increments here for the most part, just so we don't get too saturated too quickly with color. So you just want to lay it down and then just start stabbing through where you want it to sit. Now, as you stab it through, it'll get a little, well, it'll get a lot tighter, and areas that looked a little wispier might actually form like tight lines as you're pulling all of the fibers together, so do be aware of that if that is going to be an issue for you. Alright, I've got like fluff sticking to my arm over here. Go over there. Okay. So I am just kind of working from the base of the wave up right now. I know when we started, I was kind of working from the top, but I was just trying to get a layout of our top line where I wanted that to go. Okay. This might be separated enough in here. Now, I know I'm on a slight angle for the camera. It happens sometimes with how I work on stuff. We'll right that soon. Oh, hold on. Go. Had a little guy there that didn't get trimmed. He was being a little bit stubborn about it. At least I think there we go. So trying to establish a slight angle with our fiber Kind of like, you know, how they say to paint in the direction that you're trying to create. So if you're trying to create waves, like paint in the wave direction, or feathers, paint in the direction that the feathers would lay. So while we don't necessarily have brush strokes here, we will have, I guess, fiber strokes, we could call it. It might be a little bit tougher to convey that, but, you know, we're trying. Okay. Like, I kind of want the angle without it being like a steep, hard angle. So, it's a little, takes some practice to get that slopey, droopy, easy angle in there. Again, you don't have to do this to yours on the back. I just am just to try to help us stay flat so we don't get too bunchy with all of the fiber layers. By the way, I just wanted to say thank you again for the raid quite a while ago. Much appreciated. Oh, you're welcome. No worries. No worries at all. You are most welcome. I hope you're having a good day. Hope everybody's having a good day. Hope everybody had a good weekend. I kind of view my weekend as like Monday, Tuesday, since I don't stream on Monday and Tuesday normally. Once in a while we'll do an extra stream on Tuesday, but not all the time. Certainly nothing planned. So I kind of consider my weekend to be Monday, Tuesday. I know we don't stream on Saturday, but that's because I'm busy doing off-stream stuff for the podcast I help out with. Speaking of said podcast, I am going to be in the co-host chair on that next Saturday. Not next Saturday, the Saturday after. Hang on, let me look at my calendar. There's no show on the 11th, so the 18th. I forgot. There's no show this weekend. This coming weekend. Next weekend. The 11th. However you want to view that. There's no podcast on the 11th. The podcast will be on the 18th. That I will be in the co-host chair for. So yeah, we keep Saturdays open because we never know what I'm gonna be needed to do involving the show. Sometimes last minute stuff pops up that I need to help out with. And at the very least, I'll be modding the live recording of the show on the WoW Challenges Twitch channel. And that's normally on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. However, this week there is no show because Lita, who runs everything, it's her wedding anniversary on this coming weekend. So she's taking off. And understandably so. Got some little stray fuzzes that didn't want to cooperate there. I swear, I have fuzz everywhere. There was a couple times when we were working on the first tutorial where I'd have like a chunk of like hunter green fuzz, dark green fuzz. And I'm working with it, and I sat it down on the desk, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, where did it go? I didn't think I had used all of it. And I'm like, alright, whatever, it'll turn up. Maybe I did. Maybe it stuck to the backside of my felting pad or something. And, like, an hour after stream, I went to the bathroom, looked down, because something caught my eye and scared the bejesus out of me, because I thought there was a bug on my shirt, and bugs and no. Bugs are a real big anxiety trigger point for me, and kind of had a mini meltdown, and then I realized it was the dark hunter green piece of fluff that had attached itself to my shirt, and I just didn't notice. And I'm like, really? You've been attached to my shirt, just hanging out there, just clinging out of nowhere for like an hour in a spot that you probably should have fallen off from. But there you are. And I'm just like, really? Oh, oy vey. Oy vey. What can you do? What can you do? Not much. Except feel silly for the freak out, and then, you know, either put the fluff back in its correct color bag or toss it, because it was just a tiny little piece that wasn't gonna matter so much if we didn't still have it, because we still have a ton of fluff. Like, I have over 2/3 of the balls of yarn still that we purchased. I need to get some more colors though, so we can do some more fun things that aren't Bob Ross related, that are just, you know, out of imagination or from reference photos. And I was on the one website where I had gotten this yarn that we're working with now, and I noticed, because I was trying to see how much it would be if the stuff wasn't on sale, and oh, I have to sneeze. Really? Now it's not gonna happen? No, that's not allowed. I'm not allowed to have the burning, eye-watering sensation and then for it to not happen. Oh, I hate that. Well, maybe it'll come back around. But, I was looking at how much it was going to be, and I'm going through the list of the colors that I did have. So I didn't, put them in my pseudo shopping cart. And I realized some of the colors that we bought back in January are gone. And I was like, wait, what? Not out of stock. Not even listed. And I was like, oh. Well then, that's interesting. So that kind of gave me pause, because I'm like, well, I don't know here. I mean, I know companies will change their yarn colors up every so often and that sort of thing. You know, dye lots can definitely be different. From working in the craft store industry, you gotta buy more than you think you need, because if let me tell you, if you're working with yarn and it's gonna be a catastrophe if you run out in the middle and you need more, buy more than you need. Because you wouldn't think the dye lot on white or on cream would be different. Oh, yes it can. yes it can. And we can't, like, well, when I worked for the one craft chain, we could not order specific dye lots. Once the dye lot was gone, it was gone. Like, we could try to call around to other stores for you to see if they had that specific dye lot still in stock. But once that dye lot's gone, my friend, as politely as possible, you're fucked. So, some dye lots, there's not much difference. Others, there are. I'm gonna mute just a second. I've desperately got to blow my nose. So, I am sorry. I will be right back. Alright, sorry about that. I was getting snuffly and starting to annoy me, and I know it's probably annoying you guys. Okay. So yeah, I was like, well, I don't think dye lot's really going to be that much of an issue for me. Not really. It's not like we're doing a sweater where if the color suddenly switches halfway down the front, you know, it's not like it's gonna be, oh no, it's not gonna be off-putting. But I still wasn't real thrilled with the regular price on the yarn from Joann's, where we had gotten it on sale. The sale price was fantastic. Regular price is a little painful. I found another yarn site, yarn supplier, yarn seller, if you will, that their regular price is still less than the regular price on the Joann site. Now, it's not the same brand. It is still acrylic wool, yarn, whatever. Oh, I think it's raining again. Oh, it is. Wow.
What's the matter?
It's pouring.
The hell? Oh, wow.
I didn't think we were getting any more rain today. Husband got out of...
The old forecasts were saying nothing until tonight.
Yeah. Husband got out of having to do yard work today. Dang it. We were gonna weed whack and get the last elephant ear bulbs in the ground. Well, that ain't happening now. Well, shit. Anyhow, so this other yarn website is actually, their warehouse is in the state directly above me, which is another thing I didn't care for about Joann's. When I ordered the yarn, I guess because it was on sale, it was shipped very strangely, and I didn't quite understand the shipping updates I was getting. It was quite a jumbled mess because they broke my order down into like 10 different shipments, and I was getting colors that were coming from different parts of the country, and I'm like, okay. It was just very confusing for me, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm all that thrilled with this, but okay. But this company's U.S. shipping warehouse, I guess, is in the state that's north of me, so that's kind of cool. And we're just gonna put some more of this on here, brighten this up a bit. And the balls of yarn are not the skeins of yarn, technically. are not the same yardage. I think they might be 50-ish yards less. But I'm okay with that. If the base price is like $2 to $3 cheaper, so that I can get it off sale. And their sale price was pretty good too. So I think when we go to get more yarn, we'll try from this place and we'll see how it goes. And we'll see how it fluffs, because I'm not sure what weight it is. But we'll see. Alright, so you might hear the traffic in the background a little bit more distinct since it's raining again. Apologies if that's going to bother you. We live on a very busy street if you're new here. So, can't help it. The insulation in this house sucks. The soundproofing in this house sucks. But it's a house that's paid off. So, you know, we do what we can. I don't think those tiles that you can get would really do anything. The room that we're in is very tall. The ceiling's very tall. Well, it's taller than a standard ceiling. I'll put it that way. It's not quite vaulted, but maybe a mini vault. If that's a thing. I don't really think those sound tile thingies would do much with the way that I have to be set up to do this right now. And our walls are textured, so I don't think they would really stick anyway. Hell, half the time you sneeze in the direction of the wall and like the plaster coating on them is like chipping. I think Russell touched a part of the wall the other day and like a chunk of the plaster just fell off. I was like, oh, really?
Well, to be fair, I did hit it fairly solidly, and I hit it right in the middle of a,
Oh, you hit it? I thought you just touched it.
No, I was trying to spot a bug, remember?
Oh.
Or what I thought was a bug.
I couldn't remember why you had hit it. I just remembered you touching it. Yeah, so we're always a little nervous about putting nails in the walls or even thumbtacks. I've gotten a couple thumbtacks in the plaster, but you know, this is just my pencil sharpener that I've had for eons now, or at least it feels like it. Prismacolor pencil sharpener. Okay, little fuzzy guys trying to escape. Was that thunder?
I didn't hear anything.
It sounded very faint. Hang on. Now I want to see what the weather looks like. The tutorial is going to vanish for a second. It has us listed as sunny and 75.
It did stop raining.
Okay, there's like a quick little blop sitting on top of us. Looks like there's some lightning out towards Lincoln. Interesting. I'm kind of surprised. Well, there's no warnings or nothing on it, so that's fine. Okay, there we go. Sorry, curiosity got the better of me. So I'm intrigued since the weather seems to be starting earlier than expected. What this is going to mean for the rest of the week. What are you in the middle of doing?
Not much. Why?
Can you paint command me again? Thank you. Alright, so for those that came in a little bit late, well, a little bit later, that's the tutorial that we are following along with from the Bob Ross Joy of Painting series of tutorials. We are working on the second episode of the third season of the Joy of Painting. And the tutorial is called Blue Moon. That is the link to the tutorial on the Bob Ross YouTube webpage for those that want to see it in full. And with sound, so because we're just playing small chunks of it at a time and we're just kind of looking at the visual. I think I might have closed captioning on it, but just so I can see what he's saying. I'm just kind of thickening up this color a bit. Because I started out a bit thin on it just to kind of get the feel for what we were trying to do. And the shape of what we needed to do. And worked out here. All right. All these allergies are killing me. I don't know what the heck is blooming this year, but oh my goodness. My system is angry about it. I don't think I've been this bothered with my allergies since we first moved down here. This is crazy. I'm starting to get warm now of being under this work light, so I need to take off my long sleeve shirt. Okay. Alright, so I think we had started to fill in here. Still need to come back this way. I mean, this side should be a little bit darker, but not too much darker. I will say, one of the hard parts about working on the black background, or, you know, a predominantly black background, as you're picking up every stray bit of fuzz. But he was doing this on a black canvas. Motorcycle going by. I never know what this microphone's picking up. I just wanted to explain the noise. And so that's why we have a lot of black going here. And it's nighttime, so I mean, that's gonna be a thing. Alright, so I do really want to work on our flamingo painting. Still kind of have to finish sketching it and cleaning up the background. I also have an article I have to do research on this week that I have to write for the same World of Warcraft community involving an event that only happens once a month. So, like, I've got a lot to do this week. Did I use that last bit? I think we did. Need to get more out of our bag of fluff. Got all of these bags of fluff everywhere. I was kind of trying to separate it out to how I want it to sit before I get down in here. I mean, we kind of need the rain, so I'm not gonna be too pissy about it. Rain's fine. A rumble of thunder here and there should be fine. It's just if it's gonna be lightning all day, then I'm gonna be really mad when I've got a bunch of other stuff to do. Our power doesn't tend to go out all that often, so that's good. Especially with the father parental unit being on oxygen. Which is kind of why we're not really working with the oil paints all that much right now. His COPD's gotten a bit more troublesome, it would seem. And we have the air conditioning on now, and the smell from the oil paint can be a little strong, or at least I think it can be a little strong. But I'm a bit sensitive to smells on a good day, so I'm smell sensitive, and while the oil paint can certainly have a scent to it, it hasn't actually necessarily triggered a migraine on me, not like some other smells do. Oh, good. We've got a motorcycle nearby that's revving its engine, so apologies. I don't know what they're doing. It might not be a motorcycle, it might be a vehicle. There's one vehicle in town that likes to go to the car wash like 3 doors down and sit in the brick car wash bay and just rev its engine as loud as it fucking can. And you can hear it like halfway across town, although that might have been a motorcycle. But there is a car that will do that too, and they'll do it at like 11 o'clock at night. Just to be a dick about it. And I'm like, really? You could hear a pin drop in this town, at that time of night. So like halfway across the residential areas behind us, you can hear this guy revving his car engine. And it's not even like it's not like a sports car either. I don't know what the heck it is. It kind of reminds me of like a Scion, but it's not. It's not like square boxy. It's, I don't know what the hell it is. We have some interesting folks in this town, I guess you could say. Very interesting folks. Very different from where I grew up. Put it that way. Sometimes at night, the quiet is weird for me. I didn't necessarily grow up in the city. I definitely grew up in like suburb, but I grew up outside of Atlantic City, New Jersey. So, you know, the casino industry was in place, and so there was always traffic going through the one town, 24/7 streams of tour buses and people coming down to go to the casinos on vacation or what have you, see a show. So it was always something happening and whatnot. So I just want to work on the top edge of, I want to get this done before we start working on like the full bottom of it, before we get too carried away here. This is that light blue that almost looks white. Just kind of getting it thinned out a little bit here. Get this top edge worked in here for the light catching it. So yeah, I mean and you know, there was not incredible, but you know, decent public transportation. So the one house that we lived in for a while was there was a bus stop at the end of the road, so you'd hear like the squealing of the brakes, because the bus route, or that bus stop, had at least 2 buses that ran 24/7 on it. So sometimes at night, when it's quite so quiet, I'm not used to it. It's a little creepy sometimes. And then it definitely makes the other louder noises stand out quite a fair bit. Quite a fair bit. Alright, so just kind of stretching that out there. Sorry, I think this got shoved around a little. Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust the camera just a little bit. Alright, it's hard when working on the bottom edge of something, because I feel like I'm off the camera placement. Alright, I think we might bring in a little bit of white to highlight some areas, just a tiny bit. But I want to get some of this other color in here just a little bit first. So I try to stab my needle into my pad somewhere when I put it down, so it doesn't end up in my fingers when I go to try to grab it. And I do peel my piece up from my pad pretty often. And that was the husband. And he did say excuse me for those that didn't hear it. And because I noticed on the felt pad, it will kind of attach itself and be a little difficult to peel up sometimes if you go too long without picking it up. So that's why I tend to do that. I don't know if it does that if you're using the foam, a foam base, because I've not used the foam bases, foam pads, because the scritchy makes my ears want to bleed, so it's a lot sharper of a noise than this is. This is like a soft crunching through like snow or gravel kind of sound. It's a lot more ear piercing on the, at least to me, on the body if you're using the foam pad. I'm just using a felt pad. And I just picked it up from Amazon. It had I don't remember the brand, it had a sheep on the front label sticker that was on the pad. And I know it was 8 by 10. I got the larger pad that was available. I think it was $20 at the time I bought it. It's on Amazon. Prices tend to fluctuate, so don't hold me to that price, but I think that's roughly what it was. It was Christmas gift shopping, so I don't fully remember the price since I didn't actually shell out for it. But I was still being mindful of cost when I was picking things out. I finally got my parents to understand that their idea of what they want to get us for Christmas is not the idea of the stuff that we would like, and I know it's a gift and you should be grateful for gifts, but we'd rather they not spend the money if it's gonna be on something that we're not gonna use at all. And my mom's very into buying me clothes that she likes that I would never ever 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 wear because of texture or the way the neck is cut and stuff, because certain necklines, if they sit high up on my neck, will give me a migraine. Certain textures just give me something terrible. So either give me the cash and I'll go pick out the clothes if you're that insistent on doing it, and they are that insistent on Christmas gifts, even though we keep telling them they don't need to. Or, you know, ask me what I want directly and I will tell you. Otherwise, please, you know, keep your money. You don't need to get us anything. But, like, my mom was insistent. She's like, well, no, it's Christmas. You have to get something. I was like, Mom, no, we really don't. It's like, either just give us the money and we can pay a bill if you're not gonna let it go, or you know, we can give you a list of things to choose from. So we finally got that through to her this past year. It only took several years of trying to explain to her, yeah, you like got me these clothes that I can't wear, so I took them to Goodwill because I didn't want them to just sit here collecting dust. At least let somebody wear them. It made me feel bad, but you know, if I'm not gonna wear them, there was no point in keeping them. Somebody should get the chance to wear them. Like, I'm really bad with shirts that have 3/4 sleeves because I keep trying to tug the sleeve down. Really bad with that. I think I have like one shirt, maybe two, that have a 3/4 sleeve. And they're like a dressy shirt. because I had to have a couple of presentable items of clothing for when I got jury duty down here. To at least get through the first day or two until I could, you know, go get some cheapish presentable clothes if I had to. Because they do jury duty very differently here than they did back in Jersey. It was very strange. I was not prepared for this whatsoever. Now, I never actually had to serve. I never got called to come back in, but I did get a notice that I was on call. So, back in Jersey, when you get summoned for jury duty, you get the little thingy, you have to fill out your little questionnaire, and then you have to you call like the night before, to a specific phone number, and they tell you whether or not to come in, if they actually have a need to do jury selection the next day, so you know whether or not to waste your time driving all the way to the courthouse. And in Jersey, it was 3 days of coming in and going through selection, or one trial, and then you were done for 3 years. I believe it was either 2 or 3 years where they couldn't call you again, and if you did get called again within that time period, you could, when you filled out your questionnaire, you could bring it to the court's attention. I served this date, why am I being called again? And then they can remove you. And tell you, you know, okay, that's fine, don't bother coming in. Something got weird in the records. Now, here, and I have had to do jury duty in New Jersey. I did, what was it? I had to go to jury duty in Atlantic City for a civil trial. That sucked, because I was working at the casinos at the time, or at a casino at the time, and I was on grave shift, and it's a lot more difficult when you have to participate in things under threat of going to jail for not showing up, when it's completely opposite your normal schedule. So, like, the time that I had to be at court for selection or whatever was the time that I'd be, like, just walking in the door from working all night. And I'm like, really? Now, my job did let me take off the night before, and in that day, since I wasn't going to get sleep, and any subsequent days that I had to appear, I just had to call them and let them know what the heck was going on. Which, you know, fine, and I had to bring the little card to prove that I was there, so that I would get paid my day's pay as normal from my job. I know not all jobs do that, but I would get normal salary or normal hourly pay for my normal day's work, because you can't, I couldn't get out of it. Like, I had to be there. They didn't care for a civil trial that, you know, my brother was a cop in a different city, and they're like, whatever. Like, my somewhat disowned sister, who had disowned me at the time, was a court reporter in another town close by. Oh, that was thunder. And her husband was a cop. Like, they didn't care. So I'm like, okay, whatever, fine then. I can't guarantee how awake I'm gonna be, but okay, because you're making me sit through boring people yammering in my ear at a time where I'm, you know, shoving food in my face and then passing out for the day. So, you know, like, I'll try. Can't guarantee how much I'm paying to pay attention, but I will try. Like, there was like 4 other casino employees that worked grave shift on the same on the same jury. One dude kept falling asleep when we were in the courtroom, and I'm like, oh god. Like, snoring, falling asleep, like, sitting behind me, and I'm like, dude, wake the fuck up. Like, he was behind me, so I couldn't, like, tap him to wake him up without it, like, being obvious. And so, I kid you not, we sat there for, like, a week in this civil trial. And we were kind of mad that this was even at trial because it was just ridiculous. And we didn't believe the person who was doing the suing. We're like, really? No. Like, we didn't feel like she was still suffering effects from her injuries and stuff. So just as we decided, we were like, no. We were so done. We were just like, yeah, no. We were all unanimous of like, this was a fucking waste of time. This was a waste of our time. This is ridiculous. So we were sitting down working out how much we were gonna award her. And like we were being like really pissy and I don't know if snarky is the right word, but we're like, okay, so say she does have a little bit of pain still. So we were sitting there trying to work out how much like a 2 years supply worth of Aleve was going to be. I'm not kidding. And we were going to award her that. And while we're sitting there doing the math, the judge walks in. He goes, yeah, so they decided to settle. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, either they saw the look on our faces or something. They were not confident, I guess, or they were afraid of what we were gonna say. And the judge is like, we just kind of looked at the judge. We were all kind of dumbfounded. We're like, what? And they're like, oh, they decided to settle. And then we kind of were like, yeah. And then like, he's like, just out of curiosity, what were you guys gonna do? And we're like, so yeah, we weren't really convinced because she had been still doing like normal activities and stuff. She'd been saying that she had neck pain and problems from a car accident where the dude accidentally rear-ended her, and but yet she was saying, you know, oh, well, I was in the pool and I was lifting up my 2-year-old granddaughter or whatever above my head while I was in the water. And we're like, no. If you're having that severe of neck and upper arm problems, you're not going to be holding a small dead weight child above your head. No. And especially when the child's wet and your hands are wet and you know, you need to have a good grip on that child or, you know, bad things are going to happen. And it's like, no, you wouldn't be, why would you risk that if you weren't confident in your grasp on the said child? You know, why would you do that if you were still in any amount of pain at all? So we're like, yeah, we were going to award her the amount of like 2 years supply worth of Aleve. And he kind of laughed at us. And he's like, all right, well, you guys are done since they decided to settle. You are all free to go. And I'm like, he's like, thank you for your service, and you're done. And I'm like, really? That was the last jury I had to be on, or I've been on, back in Jersey. That was shortly before I left. I moved out of state, and I had moved out of state. I had switched my driver's license to Arkansas. And we had registered to vote down here because sometimes the jury duty lists, shall we say, the rolls, I guess, that people are pulled from. Sometimes they go by voter reg, sometimes they go by DMV records, you know, that sort of thing. So I was surprised when maybe a year after we were down here, my dad called me. He goes, hey. I was like, what? He goes, you got a summons for jury duty. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, for New Jersey. And I'm like, I don't live in New Jersey anymore. That's going to be a problem. I can't come back up for jury duty. That's ridiculous. He's like, well, I'll try to call them and see what they say. So he's like, yeah, hey, she doesn't live in the state anymore. And they're like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, she moved here. They're like, oh, okay, well, disregard it. Tell her not to worry about it. I'm like, all right. So I had that incident happen. I've just grabbed some of the like the mid-range denim blue color here, just kind of filling in some shadowy thingies here and there. And I guess, when was it? I feel like it was right before. Was it right before the pandemic shutdowns and stuff? I don't know. It was either 2018 or 2019. I can't remember. It might have been 2018. I got a summons for jury duty down here. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm filling out the questionnaire thingy, and I'm like having a fucking meltdown because I've never done jury duty here. So I'm like having all kinds of anxiety and panic attacks and shit. And I forgot to send one of the forms back and called, and I was like, oh, I forgot to do this. And they're like, that's okay, just send it back separate. And they gave me an address to send it to. And so I missed sticking one of the forms back in with the other stuff. And I was like, shit. And jury duty here is a month. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? A month? All the people in this area, like Fayetteville, it was for like the county, right? So Fayetteville, Arkansas has like 70,000 people. And I'm like, you're kidding me, right? A month? What the fuck do I have to serve a month for? But apparently you're like on call for a month and you don't call them unless you're like in the middle of doing something or whatever. They call you on a recorded message and tell you whether or not you have to report for jury selection for a trial. And so if there's an entire month that your life is kind of held hostage by a phone call that may or may not happen. So, like, you can't really plan to do anything because, if you get a call that says you have to report tomorrow at X time, then you're kind of fucked. So, I didn't like that. I never got called. So, I guess there was nothing happening. But, like, I had to go out and buy shoes that were presentable to wear to court. And I had, like, a couple of things that weren't technically classified as t-shirts, but I live in t-shirts, so it's like I don't have money for fancy ass court clothes. Like, what the fuck is this shit? I'm poor, yo. So I wasn't real thrilled about that. But I never actually got called to come in. But I was astounded that it was a month-long endeavor here. I was like, oh shit. Did not like that. I also, when I was back in Jersey, so I was on one civil trial. I had to show up another time for selection. And I think I sat through 2 days of selection. And at the end of the second day, they said they didn't have anything else for us and they concluded our service. I also had to do grand jury. That sucked. That sucked so bad. The day that I was put on was the first day of the week for grand jury that they did it. And apparently this day was notorious for scheduling conflicts with witnesses. So 2/3 of the time we were sitting there waiting for witnesses to show up, and we'd be notified like 5 minutes before they were supposed to show up they had to cancel due to scheduling conflict. And I'm like, really? You're just realizing there's a scheduling conflict now? It was crazy. And so damn crazy. And the worst part is, like, we weren't deciding anyone's fate. We were just deciding if they had enough evidence to go to trial. It was such a ginormous waste of time for me. I was so mad. I had an ex-coworker that no longer worked at the craft store where I did, because I was working at the craft store when this happened. She was on a different day. She said her day was non-stop from the time they walked in till the time they left. And I think the day that she was on, they did a lot of like family court stuff. And she was like, oh, it was so heartbreaking to sit through that. She goes, it was non-stop. Some days we were going late. And I'm like, holy fuck, really? I was like, you guys are really that busy? And she goes, yeah, aren't you? I'm like, no. I was like, we're sitting there in the courtroom reading, staring up at the ceiling, waiting for the lawyers or the DA or whoever the hell it was to come in with their witnesses for hours. Okay? Hours. We were sitting there, bored out of our skulls. Some of them were sleeping. Because, you know, what the fuck else are you gonna do? A lot of the people were, like, retired. I'm gonna nap today if I'm gonna nap today. And, you know, we couldn't really do anything. So, we're just stuck sitting there waiting. And half the time, we had, like, 2-hour lunches because of scheduling conflicts. I was just like, holy crap, are you serious right now? The thing that made it the worst for me was that the day I got put on was one of my 2 days off from my job. And I had split days off. So I think I had to show up on like Tuesdays, and my days off were Tuesday and Thursday. I don't know why the craft store had me working this idiotic schedule, but they did. I hated split days off. I felt like I never got any rest or could do anything productive. So like one day I would spend doing chores, and the next day I'd be like sleeping, like, don't talk to me. So it was crazy. And then like they're like, you can switch your day. Like the judge, like in this huge room, looked like a huge classroom that we were all shepherded into on like your main show up day. The judge was like, I don't care if you're a teacher, I don't care if you're this, I don't care if your cousin's first, second, third born is works in the court system. Nobody's getting out of this unless, you know, you have a dire medical emergency. We can switch what day you're on, that's not a problem, but nobody's getting out of this. And I'm like, he's like, you're not deciding anybody's fate, you're just deciding if there's enough to go to trial, that's it. And I was like, okay, sure, right. So it was a whole ass lot to be sitting there on one of my days off when I'm like, so all I got was, so like in New Jersey at the craft store, if you got summoned for jury duty, and you know, you showed up, you got these little cards that said, you know, you were at jury duty, and you picked them up, and if you had a job that paid jury duty, you had to turn that card into your job, and that verified that you were there, and then they would give you your full day's pay and mark it as jury duty pay. Well, it was my day off. So if you didn't have a job to turn the card into, then you got paid by the court for showing up. Our jury duty pay from the court was $5. I had to do this one day a week for the entire summer for $5 for that day. And I'm like, my lunch costs more than $5, god damn it. So like, they had a small cafeteria inside, but it was always so crowded. So half the time I was seeing if there was anything to eat, or I would be eating what food I brought with me, and then I'd be like going outside somewhere away from everybody because we weren't allowed to be near people. And you know, if we were near people, we had to make sure that we had our juror badges on so people could see us and know not to talk around us. So I'd be like trying to find like secluded places because I got dropped off. So I didn't come in my own car, so I couldn't, you know, just go chill in my car. Some of the jurors, when we had extended lunch, would go over to the shopping mall that was across the road and go shopping for like 2 hours. They thought it was great. But I didn't have my A car. I got dropped off, so I'm kind of stuck there. And so I'd be like outside trying to find some place to read on the days where, you know, it was tolerable to be outside. But days that it wasn't raining or too sweltering. It was a mess. And it's just quite the mess. So I hated it when we had extended lunch because I'm like, I just want to go home. Like, can we just do this and be done? It was a very nerve-wracking day for me, and it was very stressful for my nerves, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, I just want to be done. Just want to be done. Alright, so I've got a little bit of a gap forming here. So let me grab our black again. Just a little bit. We can kind of fill that in. I think I've got fuzz on the back of my arm. I don't know why it's there. But yeah, like half the time, like the one day we were sitting there, we had one DA or prosecutor, whatever the heck they were, show up at like, we're sitting there and they're like, okay, so I think the judge came in and said, okay, so the first person is scheduled for like, what was it, 10 a.m. or something, and we had to be there at 9. And I'm like, alright. So we're kind of sitting there, and we had to sit in the jury, we had to sit in the courtroom at that point, because our day was starting. So we're sitting there, and we're sitting there, and we're sitting there, and we're kind of all spread out. We're like all over the place, because, you know, after we were told what time to expect the first witness, I think the judge went back to their chambers or wherever, and we were kind of left to our own devices. So, or maybe it was a DA that came in and said what time. I can't remember if the judge was there for that or not. Maybe it was just the DA that was coming in and telling us. I know we were left on our own for quite a bit. But we were kind of all spread out. I can't remember if there was a judge sitting there the whole time, making sure that we were staying put. It's so fuzzy. I don't really remember that part. He might have been babysitting us to an extent, but he might have been doing his own paperwork or whatever and wasn't really paying any mind to us. So we sat there till 10, behaving as best as we could, because, you know, you leave adults that are bored in a courtroom for too long unattended, they're gonna start you know, finding ways to entertain themselves is all I'm saying. And it took us like 10-15 minutes to get through that and decide, you know, if they had enough to go to trial with. And like, we didn't even go back to the jury room for it. We just sat there and talked because there was nobody. There was like, I think we just did a poll where we raised our hands to vote. I don't even think we really discussed it. We were just more of like a panel deciding at that point. It was strange. And so we did that. And alright, sorry, I'm trying to figure out what color I want to go with next here, or what we want to do. I do want to come back in and do some light highlight, but I think I want to wait a minute on that. So we did that one, and then we were sitting there, and I think the judge was sitting there, and he's like, okay, well, I was talking to lawyer dude, and they're like, okay, well, when's the next witness? And they're like, well, our next thing isn't scheduled until 11:30. It was 10:15, 20 after 10. So I'm like, oh, good. So then we had to sit there a bit longer. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to keep this pretty close up because we're a lot closer to the bottom than I realized we were. We should have had that up a bit higher. Too late now, but that's okay. And so we all kind of groaned a little bit, and we're like, ugh, really? So we're sitting there, and we're sitting there, and we're sitting there, and we're all kind of looking at our watches. And I think the judge might have said, well, see if you can find out if they can show up a little sooner. So I think the judge was definitely telling that our patients were about done. Time was ticking down, and it got to be like a little bit after 11. And lawyer dude walks in, judge is like, alright, so what do we got? And he's like, yeah, they had to cancel altogether. And we just kind of looked at each other and looked at him, and we're like, are you fucking kidding me? And the judge was like, alright. And they're like, okay, well, when's the next witness scheduled? Or when's like the next thing scheduled? And lawyer dude goes, 2:30. And we all kind of stopped and looked at each other, and we're like, 2:30? It's not even 11:30, and the next one's not scheduled till 2:30. Are you kidding me? And like the lawyer dude's like, yeah, you know, first day of the week for grand jury is a little tough because, you know, scheduling, and most of our witnesses are law enforcement, and, you know, they've got to show up here or there, or, you know, take depositions with this or with that. And I'm just like, you said that they would be here. I don't really care. You're wasting my time. So this is my day off. I could have been here. I could have gone to the beach today, to the boardwalk with the husband, because he was off that day too. Like, we could have been doing something. I could have been getting laundry done. Like, I could have gone grocery shopping. But no, now I have to do it all after this. So, yeah, we were kind of miffed, to say the least. You know, and some of us were just looking at this lawyer dude, just stop talking. You're not making this any better. So the judge just kind of sat there and looked at us for a minute. And he's like, well, he's like, in that case, I guess you can go to lunch now and be back by 2. So that way, if anybody was a few minutes late coming back, they were still back in time before the witness. So I'm like, really? I have to sit around here for this amount of time? Some people that live close by went the fuck home. I'm not kidding. And I'm like, oh my god. A few people went to the mall together, but I really wasn't buddy-buddy with anybody on the jury, so I'm like, this is dumb. It's so dumb. But wait, it gets dumber. So we came back from lunch. Our 2-hour, almost 3-hour lunch. And the witness canceled. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, you did not just say that the witness canceled. Like, you did not. And there was nobody else scheduled for the afternoon, so the judge is like, well, I guess you guys are done for the day. I'll see you next week. And I'm like, oh no. And that's kind of how the summer went. Some days we got out of there at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Some days we were there till like 5 because they scheduled a witness at like 4 o'clock. So I was just like, are you kidding me? More often than not, we got out of there early. Which, you know, I'm not complaining about getting out early, but I would have just liked the people to have shown up so it didn't feel like my entire time was being wasted. Which is why I was just absolutely floored when my friend was like, we're busy nonstop all day. And I'm like, are you kidding? Are you serious right now? Our day was like fraud charges and stuff. So, like burglary and that sort of thing. So it was, she was on like family court day or something. So I can see how family court would be a little bit busier. But still. So, back to the jury duty pay. So, I got paid $5 since it was my day off. And, you know, it's like, oh, big whoop, $5. So, I think I was able to... Oh, did I take the card to the bank? Or did they just send me a check? Or I didn't take the card, so they sent me a check? Whatever it was, I think the card was like my receipt or whatever. They had like marked it down and so I was getting paid $5 a day for that one day a week, the entirety of the summer, just about. But here's the kicker. When it came time to do my taxes for the year, that following January, February, I had to claim it on my taxes. And because they didn't take taxes out of that effing $5, I had to pay on it. I was like, are you effing kidding me? Not only did I have to sit there through this, now you're gonna tell me that you're making me pay taxes on it too? It's like, what? It's like, you've got to be kidding me. So talk about like a triple kick in the head. Oh, I was so mad. This is ridiculous. I was like, if I had known I had to pay taxes on it, I wouldn't have taken it. Like, what the heck? Okay, sorry, angle's a little funky because this is a little folded up there. So I'm trying to figure out how we're gonna do this here. Actually, give me this. So let's do a little bit of some lines here. Again, this is going to be my interpretation of the tutorial. This is not going to look exactly like his, because this is not paint, it is fluff fiber, so it's going to be a bit different. What time is it? Okay. Sometimes I lose track of how long we've been live. But I don't have to feed the husband dinner tonight, so it doesn't really matter all that much when we stop. I think he may have already fed himself. We don't always eat the same thing, and we don't always eat together, so. In fact, we very rarely eat the same thing. Unless, you know, I'm like making something elaborate like pizza, or I know pizza's not really elaborate, but we do our dough from scratch, so it's kind of elaborate. It's involved, let me say that. It takes planning because I have to make the dough, let it rise for like 2 hours. Not really something that we can spur at the moment. Alright, and that is, the clicking is him, for anybody that's new. Sorry if that's a bothersome point, but he's got a mechanical keyboard and my microphone picks up everything. So, sorry. Can't be helped. Alright, I'm just kind of trying to get some other lines in here. Coming up to this edge. So a little bit lighter, but it's not like light. Or light or dark, shall we say. Alright, now do I want to put, I mean there's maybe just a touch in there of something. Let me finish with this section though. It looks like it's just going to be one of those evenings where it's wet and rumbly off and on. Because it doesn't look like it's still raining, but the road's definitely wet. Alright, so we got this weird, like, sort of reflection thingy going on here. So see, as we're going through, like the base fibers are being pulled in, so it's going to get a little wrinkly. And this just kind of looks like a little bit of maybe some wet sand. Kind of, sort of. So I guess really like whatever shape you kind of want to go with here. Alright, I'm gonna flip this up. Just gonna try to smooth that out just a little bit. Pick up any fuzz that decided to shut off. Alright. Now I don't need this to be that wispy. And we'll probably be coming back in with that lighter blue, well the mid-range blue. In parts of this, but let's see what we can do here first. So we're like kind of right up on the bottom edge here, because I didn't space this quite enough. It happens. That's why I tend to put in guidelines sometimes so I don't get carried away. Oh, ow, that stabbed me. Something did. Alright, alright, so maybe we can carry this over a little bit further. I guess it's more like foam sitting there that's sort of reflecting. I mean, you can kind of get some curvy lines in here without them looking too harsh in spots. Again, I'm just kind of putting in a half-assed guideline here. Just to kind of give us an idea of where we want to be. Alright, so I'm gonna grab a little bit more of our darker shadowy blue. That's a little thick, I think. Alrighty. Alright, so if you guys end up following along with Bob's tutorial, if you've done this with paint, I'd like to see it. No matter what medium you've done it with, pastel, oil, or chalk. Colored pencil. You know, like whatever. Acrylic, watercolor. Ooh, watercolor would be tough. That would take a lot of planning. Maybe it wouldn't be that tough. Actually, watercolor might be interesting to attempt this with. Alright, so I'm gonna take some of our... Actually, let's keep going with this. So we want this to be a little bit wispy. Oh, this one's gonna be that corner edge there. He just wants to be problematic. Alright, so just gonna try to gently separate our fibers out here. Now we didn't really do reflections in the other one, but this one it seems kinda needed, I guess. Don't know how well it's gonna work. We'll see. So I'm gonna do our darker color first, or try to, and then we can come back in with that lighter color. And see what we can get to make happen here. I'm not going too heavy. Not sure if we should. We might need to thicken it up just a little bit, but at the same time, I kind of want this broken. As I'm like half out of frame. We'll see what we can get happening here. And I probably should have watched the tutorial a few times through entirely. I think I watched it like once. So the brain's a little fuzzy on where it goes next. But you know, a lot happens during the week. Okay. Grab another bit of our denim color. That's what they're calling this in this brand. Let's see how far. This actually comes down a decent amount here. Actually. Like, try not to get too carried away, but it looks like it wants us to be a bit carried away in this spot. So I'm doing this darker light blue, I guess, first. because it seems like there's a bit more darker shadowiness to this, to a degree. And then we can come in with that brighter blue here in a minute and kind of fill in around it. And also just kind of cleaning up our bottom edge here just a little bit where it seems like it was getting a little carried away, and we'll clean up the edge with our scissors where we need to when everything is all said and done. As best as we can here. I think this is like wet sand with light being reflected off of it is what it's supposed to be in this part. Alright, I'm gonna just try to re-smooth this section out. See, I've got this like gap of orange peeking through on the back here. I'm not really sure why. I thought we had stabbed through that section. I do have a section of orange trying to peek through up in there. So I know I'm coming in on an angle on this section, but it's being a little funny down in here. I just want to make sure that everybody is actually attached where they need to be. And don't stress too much if your edges are a little wobbly and wonky. They're gonna be. It happens because, you know, it's I don't want to say it's necessarily a breathing thing, but it kind of is, because you're sort of in a state of flux here, because as you're taking your needle through, the little notches in the needle are grabbing all of the layers above it and taking fiber and shoving it through your base mat. So as you're doing that, it's gonna be constantly like pulling things in and tighter. So you might get the wobbly, wonky edges, but don't fret it if it happens. Mat board can cover a multitude of issues. So, I mean, this was supposed to be roughly 8 by 10. My felt apparently was not the exact size that was advertised on the package. I think the size on the package was like 9 by 12, so I'm like, oh yeah, we can fit an 8 by 10 on there. Except that didn't exactly pan out, because only one direction was the size it said on the package. Yeah, and I didn't really want to go smaller than 8x10 if we could help it, because Bob packs a lot into these tutorials of his, and it is hard to get all of that in there when you go smaller. We know this because we've followed along with his tutorials going small. We've had to scale down. Mostly because the size canvases he uses are pretty big and I couldn't get them on camera with the space that I have to work with very well. So we scaled down to like 4 inches, 4-inch surfaces. And it worked pretty well for the most part, although I had to get creative about what I was going to do for brushing. Because, you know, all of his brushes are big, and I do have a fair number of his brushes, but they were all too big for the size that we were working at. I was like, well, damn. So I had to get some cheaper, smaller hog hair brushes to try to use, and even some of those were too big. I mean, that's kind of what you run into when you're buying online and you don't get to actually see the size in your hand. Because the art supply stores that we have near us, the one I don't like to go to if I can help it, and the other one is pretty small considering the chain that it is, so they don't have a whole lot of selection in some things. I think their fabric section takes up the majority of their space. Which, you know, I mean, fair enough, we have gotten some fabric from there, but does limit their stock for other things. Alright. And now it looks like the sun's trying to come out again. Just gonna be one of those days. Alright. Just getting some more of our blue here. Well, our denim. I mean, the majority of this has been in blue, so kind of nondescript to say the blue color. Which one? Alright. So, I had this thing happen where I had a bottle of lens cleaner. And I kind of forgot that I had a bottle of lens cleaner. And this bottle was sitting in my paint brush box. And now I have this dilemma after I sprayed my gouache paint to try to reactivate it, because I thought it was just water in this spray bottle. Then I realized that it was in the lens cleaner bottle, and I hadn't peeled the label off. And now I don't know if it was straight water that was in there or if it was lens cleaner. It doesn't smell like lens cleaner. It kind of smells like water, but I had added water to it, so I don't know. doesn't smell like anything, so I'm thinking that I had just put water in it and just forgot to write on there what I did to the bottle. I mean, my gouache kind of reactivated fine, considering how dried out it was. I think it's just water that's in there. I think I saved the bottle. But there's just this little bit of doubt in the back of my mind where I'm like, oh fuck, I'm not sure now. But I think before when I used it, it smelled like Windex, and it doesn't smell like that now. So, like, not even the faintest hint of it. I don't know what to do about that. I don't know if I've completely fucked over what was left of my gouache paint or not. I mean, the gouache paint wasn't that expensive. I can replace it eventually. It's just the principle that I can't remember what the heck was up with that bottle that's like bugging the heck out of me. I guess it's better than drinking the paint water. I've done that exactly twice. And now I use completely different containers that I would never ever drink out of. Because before I just used to use, you know, oh, whatever mug or glass that I could get my hands on. But now I like reuse containers that, you know, I never ever would drink out of. And I didn't swallow, I had it in my mouth and I was like, oh, that's not that, you know, it was like immediately spitting it out. I was like, So at least I didn't swallow it. But that has happened. I think that's happened to a good portion of people that have painted. At least it was, you know, acrylic, non-toxic paint, but that's almost that, like, spit take of cold coffee being drunk when you thought it was hot. This isn't looking too bad. Hope we don't have too much to go under this, because we might have to omit a thing or two. We'll see. This does take a little bit to work through, because, you know, sometimes you gotta put your layers in. Definitely not as fast as paint would be. Because, gosh, I forget what week we are on this, although, you know, the weeks that we work on this can vary. Like, the amount of weeks that we work on it can vary, because it depends on how long any particular live stream went. Because the weeks that I'm not feeling well, we definitely go shorter. Or if we hit a good pause point. Alright, I think I want to double that up just a little bit. I know my hand's kind of in the way, sorry. That's gonna happen sometimes. So I just Just wanted to pull that one out and over. Maybe make that reflection a little bit deeper. Okay. So we'll get this worked in here. Okay. So I mean, it it's hard to convey it on here. You know, like the reflection pulled straight down, because we're trying to straight down it, but fiber's gonna fiber. Gonna be a little squiggly. Especially with us coming in and trimming. Got little pieces of fiber trying to fly up my nose. Alright, so I'm just trying to make sure that this bottom is behaving here. Sure, bottom edge is looking good, because we did have a little bit of trouble with that bottom edge. Getting that placed in. You okay? Just checking on husband. The direction of his phone notification going off kind of threw me. It was from a direction I wasn't expecting. Silly loose fibers making my nose itch. We've got some fans running to try to help disperse the house AC, since the central air vents in our room don't seem to work. There seems to be at least 2 to 3 in our room, and none of them are put forthing any kind of air that would coincide with the unit running. In the winter, we'll occasionally have, you know, cold air drift up through it, like when the wind blows. So methinks there might be a problem down there that we don't know about under the house. So we've kind of blocked off our vents since they don't work. And we have some fans set up to just kind of get that to circulate through the house a little bit better, so we don't have to put a separate unit in our window, which we have done before, but that really jacks the electric bill. We had to do it when we had the guinea pigs, because they were extremely temperature sensitive. And it gets really hot down here. But we don't have the guinea pigs anymore. No more fluffy potatoes. They've all gone on to other potato-y type things, so at least we don't have to worry about feeding them right now. Okay, so it looks a little different than what's going on up here, but you know, we can try to get a little bit more of that lighter blue worked in here. We might do a little bit more lining coming up to here. Okay. And like I said, we still have that other blue color that we need to come back in with. And we still have a little bit of our white to come back in with as well. I kind of want to get all of the other light blue highlighting done first, just so we don't get carried away with the white. Because knowing me, very possible. Alright, so it doesn't really look like reflection, which I really didn't think we were going to be able to pull that off necessarily. But as we get further along this section, it gets a little bit more solid. Alright. Try to go with less is more, and we can add more later, because it's a little difficult to remove this. Kind of have to do it over top without creating a whole ton of problems. You kind of just have to paint over. And I'd rather not if we can help that, just because then our layers start getting really thick. Alright, let me put you over there for the time being. Okay, so we've got a couple spots where I've got some orange trying to say hello. This feels a little bit thicker than I want. Alright. So maybe we'll kind of snake this around in here. Hey, can you do me a favor? Would you be able to get that one pot for the rice?
Oh, they need washing?
Yeah. Well, it's not storming.
Did you use it yesterday?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't end up doing dishes last night.
I was gonna say, I didn't end up cooking any rice today because I had leftover.
No, I'm from last night. If you could. Thank you. Just so I can get that pan while it's not storming. Because, you know, lightning and all, probably shouldn't be having hands in water. I'm not stupid enough for us to tempt fate. Because I know what happens when one decides to tempt fate. Oh, it's fine. Zap. No thank you. I've been kicked in the teeth enough times by fate. Not even gonna tempt it. Not gonna. Alright. Let me close that so it doesn't go flying everywhere. Okay, so as I've got fluff everywhere here. I don't know what color that one is, so that one will just kind of have to chill out back there. Okay, again, this is just something that I'm doing. You don't have to do this part. Okay, it's not terrible. Could be better, but it's not terrible. Alright, this is our light blue highlighting color. I don't see that other blue anywhere, so I guess we used it all. Oh no, it flew on the floor. And is relatively dust bunny free. Okay. So I think we'll do a little bit more of this here at the bottom. Of this one. Oh, come here, you. All right. Now for the tricky part, I need to snake it, and then I need to separate it. I know that sounds silly, but alright, let's see here about trying to stretch this out a little, just to kind of add it in on top. See what kind of effect we get. See how much we hate it or love it. It could just end up being a little meh, it's okay. Alright, so again, when I am scraping at the fibers there, I'm doing it very lightly. I don't have the needle in the base of our felt project here. Just barely scraping the surface just to kind of separate those fibers out a little bit. Because if you push down and drag, you're gonna snap your needle. Been there, done that. So let's not do that again. So we don't want the needle flying up and injuring anything or anyone. Because that's not a fun time. Fortunately, when my needle snapped, well, it snapped on live stream. I was actually smoothing out the back with the handle, and it accidentally, when I went to flip it over, caught in the back fuzz and just snagged it right the heck off. And we still have that broken guy. I put it back in the tube that all the other needles came in because I'm like, what am I going to do with you? I'm going to have to wrap it in duct tape or something before I dispose of it. So nobody gets injured. Don't just want to throw a loose needle in the trash, especially one as sharp as this. Treat it like glass or something. So that's a little bit thicker than I necessarily wanted that to be. But at the same time, it's also having an extra section of orange popping through that we were going to have to cover. Is Little on your footstool?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard her too.
Okay. One of the cats, certain way that she lays, it sounds like a bunch of pigeons making their little hootie noise, cooey noise, whatever the heck you call it. It's like, what the heck is that? We don't have pigeons here. Kind of surprised. I mean, I'm sure they're in the state somewhere. Probably down in, like, Fayetteville or whatever in the city. But we had pigeons back home in Jersey. We had seagulls back in Jersey. I miss them bastards. I know they were obnoxiously loud and annoying at times. But after growing up with them and being annoyed by them, and then moving somewhere that didn't have them, or doesn't have them, I kind of miss them now. Like, you could tell when the weather was shitty in the city, or when there was shitty weather coming, because they would move inland a bit. We lived off the back bays in, well, the one place we lived on was right on the back bay. And boy, you could tell when it was low tide, because the mud sure did stink. and when it was low tide you could see like all the little mud crab things running around and what have you. It's hard to describe the low tide smell. It's a very unique stench. Not exactly like sewage, but similar. And kind of gross in the summer when it was really hot out. So we're just trying to get this lighter color tapped in down here. Keep sticking that finger that's not protected in the way. I'm beginning to think maybe I should be putting the other, or one of these finger guards on that finger, but I think I keep trying to use it because it doesn't have the thing on it. These are kind of movement restricting, so I feel like I'm trying to use the fingers, like I'm trying not to use the fingers with them, if it makes sense, because I feel like, oh, that finger doesn't want to bend, let's not use that one. And that is the finger we should be using. It's strange, my brain works weird. All right. I think, let's see if we can get this put into here. I just have a gentle hold on this at the moment. I don't want to try to pull it too tight. But, you know, just a little. There I go again, sticking that finger in the way. All right. So I think we might stop there today. It's starting to get a little bit late and I am really, really hungry. So like I said, raid schedule for the rest of the week's gonna be a little up in the air. So we will see what happens with what we're doing when. So let's see. Who do we want to go see? What's this person doing? Alright, you know what? Let's go see. Oh, I left that up. Let's go see if John is still going. He was playing last epoch. I don't know how to pronounce this. E-P-O-C-H. We'll go see John. Let's see what he's up to for a minute. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday with something. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for the raid. Thank you for the follow. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Don't forget to follow all the socially places, NiseyBGN, pretty much everywhere. And have a great night.